from the ground up, most of them usually will freeze. And actually that is the exact skill that separates mid-level developers from seniors, because seniors are also able to make decisions, design trade-offs, design the architecture from scratch, and make decisions with rough requirements. So companies are not paying six figures for people who can just code or follow instructions, but they are paying for architectural decisions, for making the system performant, for optimizing the data storage, and making the decisions that also affect the customers and the software that they are building. So in this video I'm going to teach you the exact concepts that I mastered to be able to design such systems from scratch and also get to senior roles. This is how I passed the system design interviews without any problems, and these are the skills that I learned to get to senior level within the second year of my career. So I'm not teaching you some theory from books or from newsletters. This is what actually works in real jobs and in real interviews. So let's jump into my computer to see what we are going to cover in this course. First of all, we will start from the foundations, the core concepts that you need to understand before anything else in system design. Then we'll get to API design, which is a big part of designing systems, like how to actually design APIs that scale and also make sense for other developers who will be using it. Then we'll get into databases, how to choose the right database for different scenarios and design your data layer properly. Next, we'll get into caching, how to use caching, how to use CDNs, load balancing to make your systems fast and reliable. Then we'll get into big data processing, because that's a big topic in itself, how to handle large-scale data the right way. Then we'll get to designing for productions, like how to build systems that actually work in the real world, not just on your laptop or on a single machine. And lastly, you can see how I'm designing the systems for interviews and handling this step so that you can nail these interviews and get the offers that you need for getting to senior roles. Designing a system to support millions of users is challenging, but every complex system starts with something simple. That's why in this lesson we'll build a basic setup that supports just one single user, and then we'll gradually expand it as we go. Because starting small allows us to understand each core component before adding more complexity. So let's start with the first step and build a single server setup. Imagine that we're setting up a system for a small user base. This means that everything runs on one single server. The web application, the database, the cache, and also the other components. And this setup allows us to visualize the core workings without added complexity. Now let's break down how this single server setup handles the user requests. We have some users who are trying to access our website or our API on the server. They can be either using the web browser or a mobile app to access our server. And on the other hand, we have our server, which has the necessary files to serve to the web browsers and also the necessary API endpoints to serve to the mobile app. And it is hosted on this example IP address. Initially, our users don't have this IP address. They have the domain which they are trying to access. Let's say it's app.demo.com. So if they just type this domain name and hit enter, their web browser, for example, will contact the DNS, which stands for Domain Name System. This is a provider which maps the domains to the IP addresses. And in our case, let's say our domain name is mapped to the IP address, which is the server's IP address that we have. So now this DNS provider will send the IP address back to the web browser or to the mobile app to our clients. And this IP address is our server's IP address. So now they have the location where they are trying to send requests. So with this IP address in hand, the user's device sends an HTTP request to our server asking for specific data. And then our server processes this request and sends back the requested data. This might be an HTML page for a browser or a JSON response for the app, depending on the request type. In this setup, traffic usually originates from two main sources. The first one is the web applications, and the second one is the mobile applications that are trying to access our server. For our web users, the server handles the business logic, data storage, and also presentation using HTML, CSS, and JavaScript. And for mobile users, communication typically happens over HTTP. These mobile apps request data from the server